Roman philosopher Seneca had once said, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor." In Donald Trump's case, his desire for more and more money for America has just massively backfired for him. While the Iran war is proving to be very costly for the U.S. president, his attempt at extracting money from tariffs or gaining through a deal with Iran has not really worked for him. In fact, if at all, whatever Trump has been earning, it is through his and his family's business dealings, as is publicly known. Let's go back a few months, when on the 2nd of April last year, Donald Trump had announced tariffs on the world, from India and China to Argentina, France, and several other countries. Each one had to deal with what were called Liberation Day tariffs. In fact, Donald Trump had claimed that the United States is making more than $2 billion through tariffs, and the White House amplified this all across the media. But economists say that tariffs haven't worked and promises haven't been fulfilled. Mark Zandi, chief economist at Moody's Analytics, said that since that day, job growth has come to a standstill, with only the non-traded healthcare industry adding meaningfully to payrolls. In fact, he also added that since that day, inflation has accelerated, with the consumer expenditure deflator increasing at a 3% year-over-year pace, which is up from 2.5% before the tariffs and well above the Federal Reserve's target of 2%. Donald Trump, remember, had promised his MAGA supporters that he will reduce the cost of living. But multiple data reports state that tariff costs have largely been passed through to wholesale and retail prices, making Americans pay more for everyday goods. Let's also tell you about the Iran war. Let's cut to the Iran war. While Donald Trump has been unable to stop the war or get the Hormuz reopened, or worse still, make a peace deal, the White House and the Pentagon have been spending more as well as asking for more money. In early April this year, the White House formally requested the U.S. Congress to approve a staggering $1.5 trillion for defense in the 2027 fiscal year. If enacted, this figure would not only set military spending at its highest level in modern history, but it would also represent a seismic 40% hike over the previous fiscal, which is, remember, a jump which was last seen during World War II. Under this new proposal, the United States is set to surpass the combined defense spending of the next 10 countries, including China, Russia, India, Saudi Arabia, and the UK. Now, the aircraft that the U.S. military is using to bomb Iran includes B-2 bombers, which costs about $80,000 to $88,000 per hour to operate, F-15 fighters at $25,000 per hour, F-16 fighters that cost $14,000 per hour, F-22 fighters at about $56,000 per hour, and F-35 fighters that cost $17,000 per hour. F-18 fighters at $25,000 per hour, and P-8A Poseidon Reconnaissance planes, which come at $9,000 per hour. Plus, you've got a large number of drones. A report by the Wall Street Journal states that getting U.S. troops and aircraft in position cost the United States $630 million. News agency Anadolu reported that the first 24 hours of the attack cost the U.S. $779 million. In fact, even Elon Musk had reportedly charged the Pentagon 5 times higher for the kamikaze drones. The cost was raised from $5,000 to $25,000 per terminal. As per media agency Reuters report, now, the dispute concerned the use of Starlink on Lucas drones, a low-cost strike model similar to the Iranian Shahid. The Pentagon initially denied that the rate for aviation platforms could be applied to kamikaze drones. However, the military ended up agreeing to the price increase. In addition to this pressure on Donald Trump, remember, Iranian negotiators are reportedly demanding the immediate release of $24 billion in frozen assets held in Qatar as a precondition for the peace talks to move forward. However, in what might come in as a relief, the Iran state media today said that Tehran had obtained a draft of an initial unofficial framework for a memorandum of understanding with the United States. Under this framework, as per Iran, Iran would restore commercial shipping through the Hormuz to pre-war levels within a month. While the United States would withdraw military forces from Iran's vicinity and lift a naval blockade. But remember, all of this is as per Iran. The U.S. has rejected this as complete fabrication. But even though the world will await the final result of what really happens and whether a peace deal is finally achieved, remember, not just militarily, but the cost of this war has fallen on American citizens as well. Researchers at Brown University's Watson School of International and Public Affairs estimate that American consumers have paid close to $48 billion in additional fuel costs since the war began. This is mostly for gasoline, but also for diesel, remember the price of which has risen over 50%. Together, the two resulted in an average burden of $364.4, which is close to 35,000 Indian rupees per U.S. household. Remember, neither Trump nor his officials have been able to consistently convince the world on the real aims of the Iran war. The peace deal is nowhere to be found yet, and America has lost much more than it had on the 28th of February.